You couldn't call the New York Rangers of the 1950s and early 60s an elite hockey club, but they had a few elite players. One was extra special, regularly mentioned alongside Gordie Howe, Maurice Richard, Doug Harvey and Jean Beliveau, the NHL's superstars of the day. On top of his exceptional talent, he was a tough but clean player, a modest man of great integrity, a leader, and something of a matinee idol. That man was Andy Bathgate. Those qualities alone should have created a lasting reputation. But Bathgate's renown has not resonated as loudly through the years compared to that of those other greats, whose teams often contended for or won the Stanley Cup. Yet when his NHL career ended in 1971, Bathgate ranked among the all-time scoring leaders in the league. For 8 consecutive seasons he finished among the top 4 scorers in the NHL, and in a 9th season, he was 5th. When Bathgate is remembered today, however, it is more because his backhand shot in 1959 sliced open Jacques Plante's face, leading the Montreal Canadiens goaltender to become the first NHL goalie in history to wear a mask on a regular basis. He would win the Hart Trophy that season, scoring 40 goals, the first Rangers player to do so, with 48 assists. Bathgate had received serious Hart consideration in the 2 previous seasons as well. But what made his 59 selection striking was the Rangers, who had made the Stanley Cup playoffs in the 3 prior seasons and finally looked like a cup contender for a good chunk of the season, blew a 9-point lead with 2 weeks remaining and missed the postseason when they lost their final game. But that didn't prevent the voters from naming Bathgate the NHL's most valuable player by a substantial margin over Howe. The Rangers' mid-1950s rise followed a dark period when they missed the playoffs 11 out of 13 seasons, coinciding with Bathgate's own rise. At 22 in 1954-55, his first full NHL season, he scored 20 goals, and he got 19 the next season with 47 assists, second most in the league. That was the first of 7 straight seasons when Bathgate led the Rangers in scoring. The Rangers ended a 6-year playoff drought in 1955-56 but lost a 5-game series to the Canadiens. In 1962-63, he scored goals in 10 consecutive games, setting a modern NHL record, but the Rangers' struggles returned and management began making changes. Rumors circulated that Toronto coveted Bathgate, but it was still shocking on February 22, 1964. When New York fans turned on their televisions for the Rangers-Leafs game and were greeted with, "Hello everyone. This is Win Elliott from Maple Leaf Gardens with the biggest news of the National Hockey League season. Andy Bathgate is now a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs." The defending Stanley Cup champs had traded a package of veterans and prospects for him, and Don McKenney, and Bathgate departed as the franchise's all-time leading scorer with 729 points, 272 goals, 457 assists in 719 games. Bathgate scored some big goals that spring for the Maple Leafs, too, including a late one in Game 6 of the 1964 Stanley Cup Final against the Detroit Red Wings, a slap shot from the blue line to tie the score and send it to overtime, and the Cup winner early in Game 7 on a breakaway, beating Terry Sawchuk. Bathgate celebrated with the cup, but Original Six culture led to some mixed emotions. "I had been brought up as a Ranger, all the way from junior hockey," he told hockey historian Stan Fischler. The majority of the Maple Leafs had developed in Toronto's junior system, so Bathgate said he was something of an outsider. "Even worse, I was an outsider who had taken the place of guys on the Leafs who were pretty close friends of those who were still on the club." With Bathgate slowed by knee injuries the following season, his scoring declined, and he didn't get along with Toronto coach Punch Imlich. He was on the move again, traded to the Red Wings on May 20, 1965. He donned number 21 because his usual number 9 was worn by Howe, and when the Red Wings traded for former Rangers forward Dean Prentice on February 16, 1966, some of the old magic returned. Bathgate scored 5 goals in the 6-game semifinal victory against Chicago, all of them on the power play, setting a record for a playoff series. His 6 postseason goals, also all on the power play, set another record and tied teammate Norm Ullman for the most in that postseason. Bathgate may always be thought of as a Ranger, but above that, his loyalties were to his profession. "Wherever you play, you've got to give it your best," Bathgate said. "The people pay, you're out there for basically 20 minutes every game, and if I can't exert myself for 20 minutes, then I shouldn't be there." Fortunately for hockey, Bathgate was always out there giving his all.